there, folks. It's that time again. I appreciate you clicking and tuning in to another episode of the CSC, the Cromwell Sports Chronicles. I'm privileged to be your host. My name is Lane Cromwell. Thanks for making us a part of your day. I am so excited. Really, truly, I'm fired up to share some thoughts with you as you're out exercising, as you're on the drive to and from work, as you're maybe getting in bed, kind of slowing down a little bit and popped on a little bit of the CSC. Thank you so much again for bringing us into your life. So hopefully we can share some stories tonight, share some ideas that will make your day just a little bit better. So I wanted to actually share with you just some thoughts as we kind of just jump right in to the pool a little bit. When I was growing up, a lot of people, scrapbooking was becoming a thing. And I was never a scrapbooker at all, but that's what the girls seemed to like. I guess I had my own version of it. I would get a 3-ring binder. I would put in these empty type plastic sleeves, and anytime I would see magazines, sports articles, maybe some sports cards, whatever it might be, I would throw those into these binders and keep them for later use. And it just so happened not too long ago, being 25, 30, 35 years later, I opened some of these binders, and I found a sports program inside, and it just started bringing back some of the memories. And I just wanted to share, when I was 15, I had one of the coolest opportunities. We woke up Christmas morning, and as lucky can be, bless my parents, they, me and my 3 other brothers awoke to the gift of going later, a couple days later, to the state of Hawaii. And I had never been to Hawaii. And again, I know if you're from Hawaii, I'm not trying to offend, it's Hawaii. But since I'm currently living in Utah, I'll say Hawaii, and we'll use that reference. But the other thing that was cool about us being able to go was we were actually going and going to stay in the same big house as another family. And so they had a couple of sons that were my age, and I just thought, man, could this get any better? Could it get any better? We're going to Hawaii in the middle of winter. At the time, we lived in Idaho, so it was snowing, cold. I just thought, holy smokes, this is going to be so sweet. And I'm not going to lie, it was. It was a great experience that we were there for New Year's. But something happened while we were there that caught me off guard and just blew me away. It was one of the coolest experiences as far as just learning social behaviors. One night, I found out we were going to what they called the Rainbow Classic. And the Rainbow Classic was the University of Hawaii invited basketball teams, college basketball teams, to the state of Hawaii and had a basketball tournament. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, but things get hazy, so I cheated a little bit. I went back because I just wanted to see if anything that I read or saw would refresh some memories, and to be honest with you, it really didn't. But I just remember going, this was back in the time of the Fab Five. I believe it was their sophomore year. It was Eric Montross, North Carolina was there, Michigan was there, some other really good teams like Kansas was there. But that night that we went, Michigan played North Carolina. And to be honest with you, that I was 15 years old. I don't really remember the game. I remember sitting in the building. I remember, you know, I actually remember Michigan students or band members singing their fight song. But it was just, it was, as a 15-year-old, it was bliss. It was total bliss. But here's the interesting part, the social part that I remember. And I don't think we were waiting outside of the stadium. It wasn't a huge stadium that they were playing in. I think we just timed it right. As we were exiting the building, I had a program in my hand, and somehow I must have had a pen or something. I really don't remember, but players started coming out of from another exit. And I remember looking, and I just went, "You have got to be kidding me. That's Jalen Rose from the Michigan Wolverines." And I was pretty aggressive, as I think most kids were. But at the same time, I want to just set. It was nighttime. There, because it wasn't a big stadium, I don't think there were a ton of fans there. And so I remember going up to Jalen Rose and I just said, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" And all of the team's pictures and everything were in this program. And he opens it up and says, "Hey, where are you from? How are things going?" Just as cool as can be. And it was just an awesome experience. He takes a pen, signs it. And I said, "Well, if I'm going to get Jalen Rose, I have to get Chris Webber's." And not much longer after Jalen Rose had signed it, Chris Webber starts walking by, 6'10", 6'11", however tall he was. He's hard to miss. And so he comes walking by, and there's probably 3 or 4 kids my age that are asking Chris for his autograph. I remember he had a set of headphones on, and as he kept walking down this sidewalk towards his bus, eventually he kept saying, "No, I don't want to sign. No, I don't want to sign. I'm good. I'm good." Kids kept leaving, and I was the only one. I basically just said, "I'm getting his autograph. I don't care. I'll do everything I can." He gets to his bus. It's just me and him. And I remember I think he's going to get on the bus. He stops, he turns, and he says, "Hey, man, I'll sign it." And so he grabs the pen, and I still have this program from the Rainbow Classic from 1992, and it's a real sloppy Chris Webber signature. But I thought, man, at the time at 15, I remember thinking Jalen Rose is so cool and Chris Webber is kind of stuck up. It really it ate at me a little bit. But at 15 years old, you don't understand. And now at 43, I know exactly what was going on. What I didn't understand at that game is that Chris Webber, for 30 games a year, everywhere he went, he got mobbed, he got asked for autographs, he was hounded. And it taught me a great lesson in life about how, even though athletes are people that we, turn into heroes, they're people we admire, you know what? They, I know they live different lifestyles, but they're still people. They're just like you and me. Like I said, they have different lifestyles, but they're still people. Do they still get sick? Yeah. Do they fear death a little bit? I would think so. Do they have kids that kids that drive them crazy? Yep. You think they ever get into a disagreement with their spouse? Uh-huh. The insurance bill still comes, regardless of whether it says Lane Cromwell, Jalen Rose, or Chris Webber. It still comes. The mortgage still comes. And so I thought, you know what? I want to take an episode and share some experiences that I've had to just remind us that athletes, they're just people. They're just people. Um, let me share one other, just a few other stories that I thought would maybe be pertinent to this topic. This is probably the same time frame. I'm probably, well, maybe a little bit younger. I was probably maybe 12, 13. I went to a conference in Provo, and they had a guest speaker there. His name was Steve Young. He hadn't really come onto the scene, if you will, with the San Francisco 49ers, but Steve Young played at BYU, came back to the area, did a conference, and spoke. And again, 1994 was kind of his highlight year where he kind of broke out. And granted, he had 4 to 5 years of just unbelievable statistics with Jerry Rice and the team. But I still remember, even though when I saw him and had that experience where he spoke at that, he was still, to me, he was this person that had made it, went to a college that I was familiar with, went on to the pros. After this conference, something kind of interesting happened. I remember it was me and I assume a couple of my brothers, maybe a couple of our friends. I don't remember everybody exactly that was there, but I remember walking down a huge stairway, and I remember Steve Young walks over to us and just starts chatting with us, and he just chats and chats. And I remember in my head going, doesn't he have somewhere to be? And I think I thought that because when you go to those type of events, there's usually somebody there saying, okay, we've got to let Mr. Young go. We've got to let him move on, those kind of things. And I remember, I don't know why he did this, but I remember he takes his right hand and grabs his, I think it was his left hand. I might have mixed them up, but he takes off this huge thing, and I didn't recognize what it was. He was letting me try on his Super Bowl ring. And it taught me just a great lesson that, you know what, it doesn't matter who you are. And you know what, I can't sit here and act like I know Steve Young, but in that moment, I thought it was really cool to have the impression as a 10 to 12-year-old to say, he's just another guy. So that's the Steve Young story. Let me jump into a couple of other stories that might help even more define of how athletes or quote unquote celebrities, and how celebrities are just people. Now, again, I understand they live different lifestyles. They get access to different things than the everyday Joe does. But I'm just trying to drive home the point that, for every person that isn't approachable, every person that is over the top when it comes to kind of how they run their lives, in my opinion, there's 10 good experiences you can have, because there are still people in the limelight that are down to earth, that are, specifically, I think sports does a good job of keeping people grounded, more than not, I should say. So, when I was really young, when I say young, let's just say junior high, somewhere in that 11 to 14 range. And again, I have a lot of these experiences in that time range that have really set me up for enjoying sports, liking sports, and a couple of stories I'll share. Currently, in today's how things, I guess, are running the NBA today, the Utah Jazz host a basketball summer league. But when I was growing up, they did a summer league. It was called the Rocky Mountain Review. And I remember a friend of mine, Curtis, I remember his mom being willing to go to Salt Lake from Idaho and basically dropped us off at this high school where these NBA teams were that had young players, needed to get experience. They'd ref the game, but it's nothing like it was now. Again, it was, I'd say, security's 10 times less. Everything's accessibility to people. And that's really part of the story that I wanted to share, was that when I'm, again, a preteen or a teenager, somewhere in that realm, I remember walking in and having my mind blown that I could freely just walk around the bleachers and I'd see people and I could either say hello or ask for their autograph. And one of the first autographs that I ever received, and I still have to this day, is the current announcer for the Utah Jazz. He wasn't back then. He was actually, I want to say he was working for a company, local TV company called KSL, that broadcast the BYU Cougars. He did, I want to say, football, basketball. Then he moved on to CBS Sports. He did a bunch of college games, did pro games, and now does professional basketball for the Utah Jazz. He was one of the first people I ever met. But at that Rocky Mountain Review, I also met guys like older Ron Boone. I believe he was an ABA star. I met Jerry Salone, who recently passed away, but was the coach of the Jazz. I mean, it was just so, there was a ton of NBA players there. It's just so weird to look back on that. But in kind of marking a story about, someone I got an autograph from, I remember taking a job as a door-to-door salesman about 15 years ago, right after I had gotten married. And just for reference, if you're thinking of going and doing door-to-door sales, please look at other options before you decide on a career doing that, because having it be a lifetime career, really, please look at other options. I remember being south of Salt Lake City area, probably 20, 25 miles. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really familiar with the area. I just remember the people I was with, selling stuff with. They dropped me off in this area, and I just started walking. That was most of the summer days. So I get dropped off, and I know I was kind of in a dark place, meaning, what am I doing with my life? I'm walking door to door. I want to say we were selling like golf memberships, something just awful. And I remember having gone door to door in what it felt like, cement yards, just basic house stuff. All of a sudden, there are all these trees, and I walk down this little kind of gully, come back up the other side, and kind of look to my right, and it looks almost like a newly developed cul-de-sac. But the street that gets to the cul-de-sac is kind of long, and there's sidewalks, but there's nothing on the sides. It was just this, I just remember it being kind of odd and different as opposed to most cul-de-sacs that I saw. So I start walking down the sidewalk, and as I get closer to these homes, I realize, man, they look like nicer homes than what I had seen. And not to say that the other ones weren't nice, it's just, I remember in my head going, these are nice. So as I walk, I see the first two homes on the right-hand side. And the first home, the only thing that was different, I guess, between the first and the second home was that there was somebody standing in front of the second house. And as I approach, I just said, I'm not even going to the first house. If I see somebody, I would rather have a chance of knowing I can talk to somebody. And so I see this guy, and he's a little bigger dude, and he's on kind of a small step ladder or something to that effect, because he's trying to hang an American flag in like the mount that goes on kind of your garage door area. And as I approach, didn't have a shirt on, he had a gold necklace. And as he gets down, he turns around, sees me approaching, and it was so cool because he has the American flag, pole kind of over his shoulder, and I just go, what kind of, is he got a camera? Is he shooting shots? I mean, it just looked like that perfect moment where kind of glistening, and the flag and the necklace. And as he turns around, I realize it's the same person from the Rocky Mountain Review who had signed that autograph for me 25 years earlier as a kid. It was Craig Bolerjack, who, was now the Utah Jazz broadcaster. And even though he didn't buy anything, and even though he's had all these experiences, he's been on national broadcast, done all these cool things, he still sits there and is willing to chit chat with me. He talks, a little bit of sports, says, how are things going? Tells me a little bit about his day. And it just proved to me that people can still be approachable. People are still people. And I loved the fact that that's exactly what he was willing to do, was willing to take some time and be approachable, and I really appreciated that about Craig Bolerjack and always will. Most of you know who've listened to the show, I grew up in Preston, Idaho, but anybody in the Idaho, Utah area, you know that one of the big things when it comes to youth basketball is what's called junior jazz. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a professional athlete and your team comes to you and says, hey, we need you to travel 2.5 hours to this little podunk town, Preston, Idaho, so you can do this junior jazz camp. But gosh dang it, if he didn't show up, Karl Malone came to Preston, Idaho, and did a junior jazz camp. Now let me tell you about the first time I actually met him. So as kids do, they're excited, shooting baskets in the high school gym, kind of having fun, But then there's that time where they blow the whistle and everybody kind of comes to the middle. This is my first interaction with Karl Malone. There's probably 20, 25 kids there, and everybody sits down, and Karl Malone looks around in his Karl Malone voice. He's like, "Hey, Karl Malone gonna do what Karl Malone do," right? He's speaking in those phrases. But Karl Malone says, there's 3 people in this room that are doing something that they shouldn't. And everybody's eyes gets big. Start looking around. And Karl Malone says, 3 people here are sitting on basketballs. And if you sit on your basketball, it'll ruin your basketball. Guess who was one of the 3 that was sitting on the basketball? It was I. So that was my first real impression. But looking back on that moment, even though it was embarrassing, to me, that's always who Karl Malone has been. He says what he thinks. He says what he feels. Pretty straightforward guy. And so again, here are these influences that, in my opinion, have taught me that, or experiences that have said, hey, athletes, they're just like you and me. They tell things how they are. They're approachable in most cases. And I would say back then, Karl Malone was a little more approachable than he probably is now, at least with his time. But, remember to look on the other side of the fence a little bit. And I'll tell you what I mean. If you have Netflix, I want you to go and I want you to watch the series of The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. If you have watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, there is a moment, I want to say it was in one of the last 3 or 4 episodes. They are at a hotel. The Chicago Bulls are at a hotel. And the thing that blew me away, even, 20 years after he's retired, is how unaware we are as fans of certain things. And it showed him, and they actually have a little discussion about it, about he would come down the elevator and there are literally mobs of people lined in the hotel. He goes out the hotel. There's more people lined with ropes keeping, people away. He gets onto the bus. He gets to the stadium. He gets off the bus. There's mobs of people. Pre-game, post-game. This is his life. And you can say you want that life and you want the money, but I'm telling you, I know from other videos that I've watched of Michael Jordan, he has said, point blank, he said, I can't even imagine, and he said, I wouldn't have a problem with it, just to walk somewhere, and if nobody said hi or said anything, that wouldn't bother me at all. I'd love it. That just goes to show you the price. There is a price. But again, you also learn in those videos that, people still die that are close to Michael Jordan. He gets frustrated with people. He has everything from marriage to kids to things that, pull at you, and you got to make choices in life. But let me just maybe leave you today with this thought. Enjoy your ability and your freedom to do as you please without being mobbed. But know also that just because you're not being mobbed and talked about on a daily basis, that doesn't mean you're not important. And it doesn't mean that you don't have value. You do. The decisions you make affect so many people. Your decisions affect your family. They affect your life. People that you work with, your friends, your neighbors. There are so many things that make you important. But regardless of where you get, regardless of what you do, please be like these people that have had an influence upon me, that regardless of what happens, still be you. Just be, just be people. Is that an okay, Freddie? I want to say let's put that on a shirt. Just be people. Because, that's what we can be. We can be down to earth. We can be approachable. It doesn't matter, if you're a boss of a company or just starting a new job. Be approachable. Be nice. Be kind. Take the time. It's easy to do, and it affects people so positively. I appreciate you listening. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. We're crossing our fingers. We should be up and running on Spotify really soon, but look us up, Cromwell Sports Chronicles. Thanks for making me a part of your day. I appreciate it. And what do we always say? Love your family, love your community, love your country, and catch your dreams. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Appreciate all you do, and you take care.
Whoa, yeah. We got a dream. We're gonna chase it and catch it by the tail.